Hi guys, it's me again, and I need to go ahead and touch base on with multiplying and dividing fractions. And actually, multiplying and dividing fractions are easier than adding and subtracting. Okay, so we know when we see the word of, when it says 1/3 of 1/4, that's the same thing as multiplying 1/3 times 1/4. And when you multiply, you simply take your numerator times numerator, and then your denominator times denominator. So 1/3 times 1/4 is simply multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 4 is 12. Simple as that. What is 1? Let's move on down here. Letter D is 1/2 times 2/8. Again, multiplying is just as simple as multiplying across. Numerator times numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. And then 2 times 8 is 16. Now you could reduce that fraction if you'd like, but you don't have to. You say what number goes into both 2 and 16, and I know 2 goes into both of those numbers, and I can, whatever I divide my numerator by, I have to divide my denominator, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 16 divided by 2 is 8, so we can call that 2/16 or the same thing as 1/8. So that first page is really pretty simple. Multiplying fractions, pretty simple. The next one is multiplying mixed numbers, and so the first thing you have to do when you work with mixed numbers is step 1, write that mixed number as a fraction, which is an improper fraction. So I need to take 2 and 1/2, and I say 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, all over my denominator, which is 2, so I'm going to call this 5/2. Need to change it to improper. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, all over 2. 5/2 times 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, all over 3. So times 10/3, 10/3. And now we have to multiply our numerators together. 5 times 10 is 50, and 2 times 3 is 6. You can leave it improper as 56. Or you can simplify it by saying 56 is the same thing as 50 divided by 6. 6 does not go into 5, but it goes into 50. How many times? 6 times 8 is 48. It goes in 8 times. 6 times 8 is 48. I have 2 left over. I'm going to take my 2 and rewrite it. Instead of saying remainder 2, I'm going to rewrite it as a fraction. So I'm going to take my 2 and then all over my divisor, or same thing as my denominator, which is 6. So I'm going to call this 8 2/6, or I can call it 8 1/3. Same thing. Let's take a look at another problem. Let's take this fraction and multiply it by a whole number. 4 1/5 times 20. Step 1, I'm going to have to change that mixed number to an improper fraction. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21, all over 5. Times, now I'm taking a fraction and multiplying it by a whole number. No worries, because 20 is simply 20 over 1. Easy as that. Now I'm going to have to multiply 21 times 20. So off to the side, I'm going to show my work. 21 times 20. We know the steps when multiplying. We have 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. I'm going to put a 0 as my placeholder, and I'll start here. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. Add those up and get 420 all over 5, which is 420 divided by 5. I'm going to go ahead and show that. 420 divided by 5. 5 does not go into 4. If you want, you can put a smiley face or a 0 to hold its place value. 5 does, however, go into 42 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Going to subtract. Oops, let's move that out of the way. Bring down my next digit. 5 goes into 24 times. 4 times 5 is 20. And I just found my answer. Okay, it's 84. So again, take your mixed number, change it to improper. Numerator times numerator, you got 420. 5 times 1 is 5. You can leave it as 420 over 5, or work that out. That simply says 420 divided by 5, and you get that whole number of 84. Okay? Dividing mixed numbers, you're going to do the same step where you have to take that mixed number and change it into an improper fraction. So this becomes 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So 13/5 divided by 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, all over 2. And if you remember, we had lots of fun little sayings and rhymes to help us in songs when dividing by fractions. Here's a tip: keep, change, flip. Do you remember that? So we're going to keep the same fraction at the beginning, 13/5. Keep, change. We're going to change the sign to multiplying. Instead of dividing, it's going to be multiplying. And now we're going to flip. And when we flip, instead of having 3 in our numerator, now it's going to be in our denominator, and the 2 is going to be in our numerator. So when we flip this, it becomes 2/3. So multiplying and dividing fractions, in my opinion, are a lot easier, okay? So change it to a mixed number first when dividing by fractions. Here's a tip: keep, change, flip. Keep that first fraction, and then change that sign, and then flip the fraction, and then simply multiply numerator times numerator. 13 times 2 is 26. 5 times 3 is 15. You're welcome to leave it as 26 over 15, or you can take it a next step further and say 26/15 is the same thing as 26 divided by 15, and 15 goes into 26, I know, just once. With how many left over? 11. I'm going to take what I have left over and rewrite it as a fraction and call that 11 all over my denominator, which does not change. 1 and 11/15. And that's it.